Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of getting the most out of your work. In this video, I'm going to be revisiting the painting I created in the first video and going over a collection of ways that you can use Adobe Photoshop to continue creating meaningful content with it. So for this video, like the last, I'm going to be using the MSI Creator 15 laptop to design today. And there's a few things that I want to cover about this laptop before I jump into kind of the meat of the content we're going to be working on. The first thing is the Creator Center on the MSI Creator 15 is really useful, very helpful. And before I start working, I always jump into the Creator Center. I come down to True Color and I make sure that it is set to Adobe RGB 100% so that I know that all of the colors that I am viewing as I am creating on this laptop are the truest, purest colors. And it's going to be 100% accurate when I post them. So I don't have any of that sort of creating something and then previewing it on my phone and previewing it on my iPad and other devices to make sure that it looks right. I know that while I have this setting on using the Creator 15, that everything is going to be as I intended for my audience to see it. And the last thing that I would like to point out is that there's actually an awesome promo code available right now if you'd like to purchase a Creator 15 laptop from MSI on newegg.com. All of that information will be down in the description below, so don't forget to check that out. For today's file, I'm going to be checking the box to work with artboards. You can edit your artboards with the artboard tool located underneath the Move tool. Create more artboards with the new artboard buttons on either side of your artboards. You can reposition the artboards by dragging around the title and change the width and height with the text regions at the top of the page. Working with big artboards on the Creator 15 is quick, easy, and flawless. I have no hiccups, buffering, or crashing even as my artboard file grows in size. Now the first thing we should do here is contemplate the content that we already have. For me, this means my Knox painting that I created in the previous video, and I'm going to start thinking about how I'm going to incorporate this into all of these different shapes and sizes for these elements here. You may have different work that you've chosen to kind of, work, and you might even be something other than an illustrator, and that's fine. What you want to do though is contemplate your content in a different light other than just that raw element, because the point of this series is that you don't just create something, post it, and then leave it sit and hope that you get likes or retweets or comments and things. It's like we're doing something with it other than just making that one thing. So how does your content exist in different forms? For me, I think that my Knox content could exist for an Instagram post where obviously I have like my, let me make sure actually that I'm on the right thing here. Grab my Instagram one here. For me, the Instagram posts, I could have, Knox in the forefront here. I'm sure that you are loving my wonderful sketches. Here he is. This is him right here. He looks very handsome. Kind of right here in the center. Maybe I'll make this a little bit larger because I'd probably put him like kind of in the forefront here. It'd be pretty large. And I'd be able to, just post like, here's this painting. But I'm thinking that it would be cool to do some different elements because obviously this is a circle and I'm not going to be making circular posts on Instagram. I think that would look a little odd. There's going to be a lot of empty space here. So I'm going to present this in a different way. There's a lot of ways to do this. I could simply fill the background with a bunch of different colors and present it that way. Or I could put, maybe some sort of pattern back here that looks really interesting. Personally, I'm a fan of like noise textures and things like that. So maybe that's an option. But I also think that it would be neat just to kind of extend this darkness in an interesting way. So I have this black here, but maybe everything's dark and there's a little more eeriness to it, like smoke or galaxy texture or whatever. So maybe I have one of the things that I thought I might do in the previous video was like add some clouds or something around here, and have them kind of behind and in front of this moon. It could be interesting to add like a border here and do a border that kind of breaks the boundaries of what a border usually is. So instead of it just being like a square shape over the top of my painting here, it could be something that overlaps above and beneath my painting. And then I could do something that's like similar to that, you know, so over here in my Instagram too, I will make a new layer, and maybe over here I've got Knox in the center, but I want, like I said, a region where I can kind of have text if I want to say something to my audience, and that text would belong here, and then I can have it kind of like fade from darkness like up into where you can see this piece and kind of see his face. We can possibly have the border if the border is something that we decide we want to keep in this design. Maybe even there's kind of like a break in the border where I can have like some information here. So maybe there's like a title for this post, and then there's like secondary informative information down here. The same could be true for the Instagram story. So if I come over here, maybe typically Instagram stories have like, you know, maybe a title of like, this is what this is. And then there's like a, you know, this region in the center here that's basically kept clear for, you know, whatever it is that I want to add. And then maybe like some kind of area down here so that if I want to add like a poll or, you know, anything that I need at that given time, there's like space for that, right? And then this is where any kind of content would go, you know, so I have kind of an idea here. Maybe the same cloud kind of thing could come in where there's, you know, this weird, or maybe it's smoke, you know, that would kind of go with the character. Maybe there's like smoke kind of coming in around here. So I've got, you know, a title, region, an information area, and then like these cool elements of like kind of smoke like coming through here. The YouTube thumbnail is trickier because there has to be certain information on a YouTube thumbnail. You need to make sure that a YouTube thumbnail has everything that people want to understand about your video without it being so cluttered and so awful to look at that people are just like, you know, I don't even want to see what this video is if this is what the thumbnail is that is presenting it to me. So I would want to have, for a thumbnail, I would want to have him maybe off to the side here, because if he's smaller and he's kind of off to the side, then that means I can have this area over here for, you know, maybe, I guess if we're doing a thumbnail for this video that I'm making right now, this is where I would put like logos and things to show people what I'm working on and what I'm using to work on this and things like that. So maybe up here, like here's Knox over the thing. He looks like a Pac-Man ghost now, but you know, that's what he is. And maybe we'll have like getting the most out of your work. That's kind of a long sentence. We might have to have like some of it kind of run off right here. So it says like getting the most out of your work, and it's kind of around his head right here. And then maybe I can have like part 2, and then it'll say like graphic design, boom. And then maybe in this little open space here, I'll have like the MSI logo and my own logo, or maybe I'll have like the Twitter logo because we're making stuff for Twitter. That's my best rendition of the Twitter logo, you know, and maybe we'll have like the YouTube logo because I'm also making a thumbnail for YouTube, and you know, something like that, you know, that's how that could go. And it has all of the necessary information. And then for the let's see, for the Twitter, did I put that in the proper thing here? Let me see. I think it's supposed to be down there. Yeah, there we go. And then Twitter, let me make Boom, make that. So then for the Twitter post, where Twitter is interesting for me personally. It really depends on how you like to use your Twitter. But I don't really put tons of information on Twitter posts because we have that text region with, you know, our limited amount of characters that we can write an announcement of some kind to, and we can make threads and we can put tons of written information in it. And I don't typically like to clutter my posts, like the images themselves, with, I don't like to make them a bombardment of information. So what this might be a good place for is like, maybe it's the image, but maybe it's cropped. Like maybe the moon is like, you know, just that much of it is like showing. And then we have like Knox here. So it just has, you know, like that much of his face and hair. And then maybe I add something to this post that the other ones don't have. You know, I have a lot of space to cover. So maybe I have like that smoke element behind him here, adding like a nice kind of motion in the back. And then maybe I do something similar to how I did on the Instagram story right here, where it kind of overlaps, you know, to kind of keep that cohesiveness with the Instagram story and with the Twitter post. So it has, you know, this little overlapping, you know, kind of smoke in the corner here that's like, you know, drifting off. And that's just like the post. And maybe I can put kind of like I put on that Instagram post too. Maybe there's like a little something right here, like just like some text. But the important part with the Twitter post, I think, is to make sure that everything is like not bombarding your audience, and also showing something that like grabs their attention enough to read the important information you put above in your actual post. Another thing that's important here is you'll notice that I made a specific effort to change the arrangement and like the ratio of my full painting, because it would look really lame if, for example, I was just like, well, I want to post my painting to Twitter, and so I just like post it and it's in the Twitter sized post like so, and then there's just like all of this empty space out here. I don't want to do that. And I also don't want to post just my square, you know, image of it like Instagram one over here, because so many things, oops, I got my Wacom settings coming up there. So many things get cropped on Twitter nowadays. I'm sure everyone has noticed. It'll favor areas of your post that has text on it and so on. It'll crop around it, and especially if you have like created like a really nice painting or illustration, or you've created a really cool badge of some kind, or whatever it is that you've done, and it has like a big title at the top or the bottom, then you post it and it's not, you know, the Twitter ratio, but it has kind of cropped around that one text area, and then what you thought was going to be the debut of this wonderful piece that you created is now this really strange cropped piece that like doesn't really show the breadth of your work and almost kind of spoils it, you know. So I'm making sure to make it Twitter size and show the information that is interesting right off the bat, so that it won't crop and it will still have the same depth of intrigue as if I, you know, posted the square version. So these are my sketches. This is, you know, the ideas that I've come up with, and now we're gonna move into kind of actually adding details and bringing in some elements that can make this look real and not like chicken scratch sketches. All right, so I'm gonna come over here to my libraries. I have added some elements kind of resembling what I've sketched here into a library for myself to kind of drag in and work from. And the first post that I'm actually gonna start detailing is the Instagram one. And the reason why I've chosen to do that one first is because it's a nice kind of wide canvas where I can put a whole bunch of different elements in, and then I can kind of transform that idea into something that will fit in all of the different all the other different modes that we're going to be kind of transmuting it into. So let's focus on Instagram one. I'm going to kind of grab my libraries and drag it out here so that I can just like keep a nice look out at all of my little elements here. I've got some fonts. I've got the Great Fighter, which I need to make sure I can actually use. I'm going to update that real quick. I've got Mason, Serif, OT, Bold, and I love using this font specifically because I love Diablo 2. It's my favorite game of all time, and this font is like highly reminiscent of that. And then also good old Montserrat. So I've got my image. I've got some like smoke texture, some chalkboard textures, some like spacey chalkboard textures, and then I've also got this really cool couple of images that are like mirrors and broken glass, because I thought, since I'm going for, you know, designing around not only this character, but just designing for something that I'm going to think is cool in the future, adding kind of a, like, making the informational region for our story, our Instagram story here, making it a mirror might be interesting, but we'll get to that in a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to update my font here to make sure that I can use Great Fighter if I want to, and then we're going to dive into it. Okay, so I have updated my font, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag in my Nox image so that I have that as a focal point. I'm also going to make sure that, let me grab my artboard tool. I'm also going to make sure that I turn this layer on a low opacity so that I can just kind of keep that idea in mind while I start arranging things in here. So let me come over here to my Nox comp, and I'm going to grab, I've got two different files actually in this Nox comp file, and that is, I've got the main file, and then I've also got this one that I've masked, and it does need a little cleaning up around the edges, but I'm not really so worried about that, because I know that I do actually want the background of this to be dark, because that reflects, you know, kind of the original painting, and also the vibe for most of the things that I post. It's very on brand for me, so I might not actually clean this up, but if I was going to have like a light colored background, then I definitely would. So I'm going to actually drag in this Nox comp transparent that has it masked. If you need to mask something and you maybe are not as familiar with masks, the way that you can do that is, let me actually turn on my my main comp here. I'm going to make sure I select one of my selection tools, and what I did was I just kind of went around. You can use the lasso tool, or you can, you know, depending on what you're doing, you can select with like a marquee tool, or you can come in with an object selection tool, or the magic wand tool, whatever it is, and then you can come down here and you want to click this button here that has the circle within the rectangle, and it will mask, and you can see that I just have that part masked. You can also, oops, there goes my settings again. You can also, if I Control Z, you can also right click and say select inverse, because maybe you just want that square cut out, and you can do it and it will just mask. And I do have this showing underneath, so it didn't cut that ear out, but you can see how you can pretty much mask whatever it is that you want. I'm going to go ahead and hide this and Control D to deselect, and then just drag this because I've already got it masked here. And I'm going to pull this layer up over here, hover over my social templates thing, and then just go ahead and drop that into my Instagram post. I'll Control T to free transform, and then I'm going to go ahead and kind of resize this down and situate it the way that I think it will look best in here. That doesn't look bad right there, just like with a tiny bit around the edges. I might use my arrow keys to bump it up just slightly and hit enter. All right. So I got my guy in here, and I'm also focusing on my sketch back here to see what I had. I had like little cloud sketches and my border sketch. The next thing I'm going to do though, however, is I'm going to add in a background. And I've got two backgrounds kind of along the lines of what we spoke about before. And that was, I know that I like textures, I know that I like space. So I've got like this chalkboard texture that could look really cool in here. And then I've also got a version of this chalkboard texture that also is kind of like a space version. So I can kind of put both of these in here and we can see what they look like. I'll kind of make this like so and just drop this in here. All right, so I actually really like that space behind them. That looks actually amazing. I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter. And I might actually want like a combo of these because I love this dark texture, that chalkboard, but I also would like to have like a hint of the stars back there. I think that looks really good. So I might actually go ahead and just put this on a blending mode. Maybe like I think darken and, well, actually darken looks pretty good. Let me zoom in here. It's got like some of like a hint of the stars and then it has that chalkboard texture. That actually looks really good. I'm gonna go ahead and transform this again. And I wanna see if I can bring the edges in and get some more of that like star texture. There we go, like a little bit more of that kind of going on in there. Maybe go ahead and hit enter, and that's actually pretty cool. It's very subtle. I think it looks nice, and it's got, you know, the same kind of blue as his face, but it also doesn't distract from my painting at all. That's really cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that. And then I also have this smoke texture that I thought was really great that I'm gonna put between the space background or dark background and Knox himself. So I'm gonna drag that in there and I'm gonna see what this looks like. It's obviously a wild color that does not match the look and feel. Like I got lucky with these textures. They kind of go with my usual motif, and this does not. This does not look like anything that goes with this here. But bear with me because I think we can create something pretty cool out of this. All right, let's see. How can we go about this? I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller and I'm gonna throw it in like that. Maybe kind of situate that. That actually looks cool. And make it a tiny bit smaller so I have like the end of that. Maybe a little bigger, so that it looks like it's like whooshing off the edge there. I'm gonna hit enter. And then maybe what I can do is grab this space chalk. I'll Control J to duplicate it and put it over the top of our texture. I called it a smoke texture, but I'm actually pretty sure what it is like liquid that's been dropped into, or dye that's been dropped into liquid, like, you know, like some blue paint or something that's floating around in water. And then maybe we will explore some of these blending. Ooh, that's cool. It's pin light. That looks neat. I typically have like some basic go-to blending modes that I like to use. And that would be darken and multiply. I use very frequently. I use color dodge a lot. I use overlay and soft light a lot. And I use hue or color a lot. I don't think any of those are really doing this justice right now. That hard light though, and that pin light, especially that pin light, that looks really cool. I think what I'm gonna do is put it on pin light. And I'm going to actually, before I apply that, I'm gonna put that on normal. I'm gonna actually convert this to a smart object because I'm gonna apply some other stuff here. I'm gonna put it on pin light, and then I'm gonna do Control U to bring up my hue and saturation, and I'm gonna see what happens if I change the color a little bit, like maybe add some more gold into it. That's actually really cool. Maybe more over here. It's got that green in it. I don't know how I feel about that green. Maybe if I make it more saturated, I can kind of pull in. That doesn't look bad. That's kind of cool. Another way that I could do this is if I hit cancel here, let's see, I can come down here and add a photo filter to it too, which would be sort of interesting. I can apply some different filters in this way too, which would be kind of cool. But let me see, maybe like a sepia, yeah, like a sepia, like, that's cool. It's subtle. It's still like what I'm trying to do is make something that looks nice, that doesn't like distract from my painting, and that actually doesn't look half bad. It just kind of adds like a little subtle like splash, you know, that's kind of carried off into the upper left there. That's not so bad. We could like crank up the density a little bit, maybe like that, make it a little more gold so it kind of blends in with the moon here. That's not bad. Not bad. I wonder if I put that over just the ooh, okay. I'm actually going to try this over just my little smoke texture here. Let me crank this up. I'm going to right click this and put this on a clipping mask too. So it's not changing my background color. It's just clipping to the smoke texture. That's very important. And I'm going to go through and let's do like a red. Interesting. Not bad. That's kind of cool. Maybe if I put let me also clip this, create clipping mask to that. That's actually kind of neat. I don't know. Let me change this from a red to like, what if I just, that's cool. I like that purple behind his ear. I might actually leave it like that. So that's warming filter 8.1 clipped to the smoke, and then my space chalk there. That's cool. I like this a lot. I'm gonna leave that. And then the other thing that was kind of in my sketch was that border, right? So with the border, there's a lot of ways you can do a border. A lot of people just make like, I'm gonna put just a box, and here, because I've got like a circular shape, maybe not always a great idea, but it is a square post. So maybe I could do like a rounded square border and do it in a way that kind of like overlaps with something. In fact, you know what? Speaking of overlap, something that might be cool, if I hold Control and I click this smoke texture here in our background, I wonder if I could add that to the mask to make this portion of the smoke kind of come over the moon. What I'd really be doing is masking what's on top and showing that off, but let's try that. I'm gonna select my mask here, and I am going to grab my stylus. I'm gonna hit B on my keyboard. I'll right click here and grab like a soft round brush, and I am going to select black, and I'm just gonna kind of drop this in here. Maybe I'll grab white and just like kind of fade this in subtly so that you can still see it here. I'm gonna turn the flow way down and turn my opacity way down, and I'm gonna turn my my brush size much smaller. I'm just gonna kind of like fade this. That looks kind of cool actually. So I've got like the element of like, you know, this moon kind of behind here. Maybe I can even do that up here. Maybe let me go back to black. Maybe I'll kind of start to fade this as well. I'll turn my opacity up just a little bit and kind of fade that, or maybe let's see, grab some white again and kind of fade that back in right there. I'm gonna do Control H so I don't have to look at the marching ants. That's not bad. I think this is a little, I don't want that to be like that around the edges. That's like very harsh right there. where it shouldn't be, if this is like some kind of smoke. Let's bring my flow up a little bit. I'm gonna redo this bit. Let's see. Bring it down to black. Yeah, there. That's kind of cool. I'm gonna deselect actually, and I'm gonna put, if only I had, actually. Let me see what I've got in my brushes, because I know I've got like some texture-y kind of things. Maybe I can just kind of paint in almost like some semblance of the smoke so that it looks, make sure that I'm not selected here. Turn it to black. And yeah, there we go. So now I have like this smoke kind of furling over this. I'll add some texture to the end of that too, so it really looks like the fog is like exploding from, you know, this moon behind him, over the moon and under the moon. That looks actually really, really cool. I'm digging that. That gives it like a little more oomph, if you know what I mean. Okay, so that looks cool. Now we were talking about the overlap of a border, so I'm gonna Control S and save, and then I'm gonna grab my, let's see, my rounded rectangle tool. I'm gonna make sure I have a white stroke on it, and I'm gonna turn the fill to nothing, and I'm gonna drag out, I'm gonna hold shift so I keep like a square. I'm gonna drag out a square here. I'm not seeing my stroke, however. Let me make sure, let me turn the oh, it's at 0, duh. Maybe we'll do like a 12. I don't know how big a 12 stroke would be. Too big. Let's do half that. Let's do a 6 pixel stroke on this. That's thin, that's good. Maybe we can even go down to a 4 pixel stroke. Nice, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and hold shift and drag my little square out, and I'm gonna kind of position it like so. There we go. I think that looks neat. I'm gonna Control T to transform it, and I'm going to, let me hit enter, and I'm gonna hit Control H again to kind of bring back my grids, and Control T, and I'm just gonna make sure that this is center to my project here. There we go, that looks good. And I'll hit enter. And I'm gonna drag the corners in. If you have your Photoshop updated to the latest update, you will be able to kind of drag in these rounded corners. Let's Control T and kind of drag this out. Let me hold shift and drag. I'm holding shift and alt, so it's adhering to the proper shape, and it's also adhering to like pulling out from the center instead of just pulling out from the corner I'm dragging from. I also want to make sure that there are no tangents with the border and the moon. So maybe that's actually perfect right there. Okay, that looks cool, but I don't want it just like over the top here like that. I want it disappearing behind things. So I'm gonna mask this, honestly. I'm gonna go ahead and just hit my mask button to add a mask here. I'm gonna take my brush, make sure I select my soft round brush, and I'm gonna come in and I am going to mask, because we talked about, oh, let me make sure I'm on black. We talked about adding a possible like title up here. So I think it would be kind of interesting to just like kind of blur this out. Maybe do the same thing here, down here. Kind of blur this out, because maybe I'll have writing in between here. Could be really cool. Maybe not. So I'm imagining I could probably put his name at the bottom. Let me kind of blend this back in. I'll put his name at the bottom, and I'll put like something like in collaboration with MSI on the other, on the top. Let's let's get this out of here. Let's kind of blur this down so that it kind of disappears into shadow behind our moon. That looks cool. Kind of disappear this in here. And that we could also make it look, depending on how long this is going to be, we could also make it look like it disappears through the coils of the smoke. But we won't get ahead of ourselves. Let's add some text in here and see how we feel about it, shall we? There we go, got a little blur. All right, so I am going to hit T on my keyboard, and I'm going to go ahead. Something I could do is I could type on a path here, but what I don't want to happen is for it to start going around the path of this here. So I'm just going to click outside here. I'm going to center this, and I'm going to select. I'm going to type kind of like what I said in collaboration with MSI, because that sounds really cool. And I'm gonna make this white, and then I'm going to use, let's use my Mason Serif. Let's use my Mason Serif font. Let me just Mason Serif. Oh, I have bold and I have regular. Let's try bold. Let's try bold. And then I'm going to Control T and kind of drag this level here. That is cool, but it looks a little meh. Maybe what we could do is grab all of this and group it, and then shrink it down. Let's shrink it down so we have a little more space. Yeah. I jive with this. I'm liking it. I'm into it. Let's bump it over a little bit more. There we go. And then I think we lose kind of our smoke at the top here. So I'm going to bring it up. Bring our smoke up. Actually, I'm gonna have to bring all of this stuff up that's all clipped together. So let's select it all, and I'm going to, booyah, there we go. That looks cool. It gives me a little more space up here. Yeah. Let's go ahead and transform our border like so. There we go. A little border right up there. And then I guess we don't actually have to have it masked at all on the sides, because it doesn't actually bisect our thing here at all. So I'm going to go ahead and paint these back in on the sides here. I'm going to transform our text up here and bring it up like that. And then I'm going to mask up here is where I'm going to mask. I'm going to make my brush smaller. I'm going to grab some black, and I'm going to go ahead and mask like that. There we go. That looks cool. So in collaboration with MSI, maybe I'll bring the rectangle up here. Well, maybe not. We'll see. Let me add, I'm going to duplicate this text, Control J, drag it down here, and then I'm going to put his name. I'm going to put Knox in caps, and I'm going to make this larger. It's at 12 point right now. Let's go ahead and make this like a 30 point. That's cool. That's not bad. It doesn't really work with the border the way I imagined, but we can work with that. Let's bump the name down just slightly. It's not as crispy though in the bold. Let's see. Let's try the regular for this. Regular. Yeah, that looks really neat. And then let's mask this. So let me grab my brush. Now let's mask right around the edges here. that looks not bad. That's actually, I like this. I think this is cool. I think it has a nice subtle texture in the back. It's got this cool, you know, eerie, mysterious, like void magic behind him. It clearly showcases my piece, and it also has some basic information. So, you know the title of the character, you know that this is something that is in collaboration with MSI, but it also doesn't clutter my piece so much that if you're scrolling through Instagram and you see this, it's like, whoa, that's a cool painting, but it's not like a bombardment of information. So I'm gonna go with this actually for the motif of our entire thing here, and I am gonna kind of go ahead and create some transmutations of all of these sketches here with this feel, with this vibe. So let's do it. So I'm going to start by duplicating all of the elements from Instagram post 1 and moving them over to Instagram post 2 so that everything looks the same, but I can start editing it and making subtle changes that make it more of kind of a second iteration to the post. So I have my version of this piece that I can add some information to. And I'm kind of darkening behind all the text to make sure things are readable. And this is something I can come in and add whatever information I want if I need to make an announcement and so on. And then I'm bringing the same images from Insta post 1 to the Twitter post to kind of create my new composition for the Twitter post. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm not going to be adding any text to this because the Twitter post text region itself is where I would put any information that I would like to announce. So this is just using the Twitter format to make kind of a new iteration of the composition of the painting so that I have something really nice to showcase, and then the information can be, like I said, in the post. I'll do a similar thing with the YouTube thumbnail, kind of creating a new composition for it, but you've noticed I've bumped it over to the left side a lot more than the Twitter post was, because I do need to create some space for all of the necessary information. I'm adding now the title, Getting the Most Out of Your Work, because that is the name of our series, and I want people to know that this is still part of the series, is the, you know, same as the previous video. And then I'm starting to kind of position a theme because this is graphic design, letting everyone know it's part 2. And then I also want to add a stroke behind all of this text because I want to kind of bring the visibility out from the background. I'm kind of toying with, you know, adding some images and stuff on the side, and I've decided I'd like to use the MSI logo because since these videos are in collaboration with MSI, I think it's important to put that at the forefront of the thumbnail and let everybody know that it is kind of a partnership thing that's going on here. And then I think I'll bump over the graphic design and the part 2 to the same corner so that I can come over and make this MSI logo a little bit larger. And I think that kind of does the trick. It makes it so that everything is right there, getting the most out of your work, part 2 graphic design, and then I'm partnered with MSI. And then for the Instagram story, I'll take a slightly different approach. It's still going to have all the motifs and kind of the vibe as the other post, but I've got this really beautiful mirror that I'd like to use for this. And I had this idea that since the Instagram post is supposed to be something specifically that I can use at a later date, even for things that are completely unrelated to Knox and the story he's from and the projects that he's connected to, I could kind of outline these shattered glass pieces in this mirror that I've added. I'm going to make them shapes, and then I'm going to use clipping masks to clip the image of Knox's face to each of these individual pieces. So we'll mask them out and make sure everything stays circular and within the frame there. And I can sort of stagger them to make it look like Perhaps Knox is staring into this mirror and his face is shattered and distorted in some way, and it looks eerie, it looks spooky. It's starting to come together here now where it looks very interesting and engaging, but I'll also kind of apply a dark filter onto it so that I can add text over the top, because at least for me personally, what I like to use my Instagram stories for is just to let everybody know that something new is coming, that something new is happening. It's like a very quick update that I can do to my my community. And I can use this for anything. This could be just letting people know that I'm going to be doing a new broadcast at some point, and it'll just have this background. It's just a really nice graphic that I can use for a lot of different things. And I think it actually looks really, really good, even though it's not, it's a mirror and the other elements don't have a mirror. And then what I like to do is change the color of the mirror frame itself, just to make it match a little more with like the gold of the moon in the painting, since the moon doesn't show here. And then the last thing I'll do is start to add some of this atmospheric smoke, so it really blends in with the motif of the rest of the project. Even though, like I said, it has some elements in it that's not in the others, I think that this really does well to keep everything very cohesive, make sure everything looks like it belongs to the same project, and gives it this nice kind of eerie, spooky feeling in keeping with the rest of the pieces. So I'm just kind of touching up the smoke here on the end, and there you have it. There's like all of our nice set of social media graphics. Another thing I've been doing throughout this video, as you probably noticed, is I've got this library here full of all of the elements and assets that I've been using to create this. And because I've created this library, I'm able to do kind of a multi-app workflow. I can come into Illustrator and I can drag and drop my assets in there and edit everything. I can even come into Adobe XD, which we're definitely going to be getting into in later videos for some auto animation. And I can drag in my elements and use them there, and I can even edit them in Photoshop and see them update live in Adobe XD, which is really great. And the wonderful thing about all of this is that not only can I use all of my assets multi-app, but the Creator 15 from MSI is powerful enough that I can kind of do this on the go. I basically have like an entire kind of studio at my fingertips. It's very, very like working on my desktop computer because I have all of my apps. I have everything that I need here, and a system powerful enough to suit my needs. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed this video and it helps you in your own creative endeavors. And before you take off, please take a look at the link in the description video where you can check out the Creator 15 for yourself and use a promo code for a discount on the laptop.